Hey everybody, how's it going today? And welcome back to another exciting episode. And in today's episode, it will indeed be exciting because we are going to be talking probably about one of the most excited stocks in the market right now that everywhere all over the news and media is currently covering. And that has to do with the incredible Tesla. Tesla. What exactly is going on with Tesla in the market right now, and my personal sentiments to whether or not I think it is a good stock to buy, or maybe not so much of a good stock to buy, because obviously this stock has been one of the most craziest hyped up stock right now, having I believe reached $1,500 as of this time that I'm making this video around July 17, 2020. This stock not that long ago, I believe only back in March, was only about $300 and has now gone up about almost 4 to 5 folds, and only about 1 to 2 months ago was at about $700. It is insane to think about where this stock is currently headed, so we are going to be talking about this all in today's video, so definitely watch all the way through because I think it's going to be an insightful and, as we mentioned, exciting episode. But real quick, before we begin, make sure you smash the like button because it really does help out the channel, and consider subscribing if you're really into personal finance videos like this. Oh, and also consider commenting down below any stock that you think you're particularly really interested right now, whether it is Tesla or maybe another stock, because I'm hoping to collect ideas about future stocks to basically analyze and really think about, even though my channel is more of a diverse financial and personal development channel, where I talk about a bunch of different things. Okay, well, let's roll the introduction and get started. So the fast answer really about whether or not you guys should buy or not buy Tesla stock is that it really depends. It depends specifically about what kind of investor you are, and also about what you specifically expect to gain from this particular stock, or what you expect to basically happen. Now, I can read like charts, but I'm assuming almost every single person here can probably look easily at the statistic, the charts. You guys know exactly how much it's priced, how it's basically moving and all that. So I'm going to talk a little bit today more about the sentimental reasons to what exactly is going on with Tesla and what I personally think, because at the end of the day it is a little bit subjective, but most stocks in the stock market do trade very much based on emotion. That's the reason why you can see so many stocks that will skyrocket with almost barely any product, but it's because people are so hyped up that they believe the stock will do something incredible one day. And I think Tesla is probably the most applicable stock where that currently applies, because if it was so easy to do the math, then obviously we'd have so much more millionaires by now inside the stock market. But part of the reason we don't is because there's a subjective emotional aspect to it. So Tesla is obviously a stock that has a lot of really great things that are going for it, that I think it gives enough reason for the majority of us, especially on the long-term grand scheme of things, to be really bullish about this stock. That's why there's so much hype about it right now, because they have a lot of great things that are going forward. They obviously do things like electric cars, clean energy, solar energy, battery power, basically everything that's like super futuristic. They're basically the future, more or less. Tesla is basically going to influence a huge part about what the future ends up looking like. So I think it's exactly because of that reason. There's a lot of reasons to feel very bullish about what exactly Tesla will be in the future, hence the hype about people calling it the stock that will eventually hit $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, $8,000, over $9,000, over $10,000 maybe one day into the future of some kind. But the only thing about this stock is that it's obviously rallied a lot over the last couple of months. So there's so much FOMO that's being driven into the stock, people trying to catch the knife or the train that has basically already left the platform, thinking, oh my gosh, that train is, that stock has already gone up, is it too late to go up? And that's really been the concern about whether or not. On another note is there also a stock that's very highly projected to eventually join the S&P 500 very soon. The likelihood that Tesla will join is very high. I'm pretty sure they've already fulfilled the majority of the requirements to be able to get into the S&P 500, like being a US company, having the right market cap worth, and I believe they just have to like have a certain earnings threshold, which they're basically projected to achieve that more or less. So I think that there are so many great things that are going about this stock that I definitely believe that it's definitely an incredible stock to own in the long-term grand scheme of things. Now, I think with every single stock, it's important to also understand the other side and more of the bearish argument about what might be the issues with this stock. And I think the first one is that obviously, as we've seen, because the rally has gone up so high, there's a lot of fear right now that the probability of some kind of correction or pullback is insanely high. And it's actually not just with Tesla, but actually even with the stock market as a whole. In fact, I made one of my previous videos talking about why I think the stock market has such a high probability of crashing into the near future. It's just more of a prediction about when. So I think the first issue, I think, is really just because of the potential correction, the fact that because it's spiked up so high. The second issue I really can potentially see about Tesla is that so much of the rising spiking price has actually also partially been because of emotion, because of so many people FOMOing and trying to buy into Tesla right now, pumping the price going up and up and up even more, on top of the hype surrounded by the fact that they're joining the S&P 500, and a lot of stocks that join the S&P 500, not always, but a lot of them end up rallying. But the problem also is that long term, if the stock ends up losing that emotional interest, and this happens all the time, I think, is that sometimes you have this stock that kind of everyone just takes interest into it, but then the fade kind of just goes. And I think that maybe if they do actually end up joining the S&P 500, there's a chance that maybe 3 to 4 months from now, people lose interest in Tesla. Maybe it becomes, and I'm not saying it's going to happen, nobody knows for sure, but it's possible that maybe the emotion starts to fade, and because this stock did trade on emotion, it starts to crash down again, or certainly to go in a very just sideways kind of movement. And then I think the third thing to really understand is honestly just out of the logic of current events. Right now, we are still living in the pandemic after all. Tesla's headquarters, I'm pretty sure, is in California. California recently just went into lockdown. How many people do you think are going to buy a car during this time period, especially an electric car, given the fact that, so many people are hungry and struggling during this time and businesses are poor? A lot of people are hoarding cash right now. So really the bottom line is that the real cons to really think about is just to really consider the fact that because it's spiked up so high, a lot of people feel that the general sentiment is that Tesla is actually undervalued in the long term because there's so much going forward, but potentially overvalued actually right now because of how much hype has driven that stock. The second thing is because of the emotional aspect, that if the emotion starts to subside later on, it may start going back into a sideways motion. And honestly, just because of current events, because there's a lockdown, people are not buying cars as often. If they're anything, they're saving money and all that kind of stuff. That might be something to think about. In a lot of ways, when I really think about it, this stock actually reminds me a lot like Bitcoin. In fact, I'm going to pull up two charts, Bitcoin's chart and Tesla's chart. And obviously, crypto is different than stock. But what I'm trying to say is there's so many so many similarities when you really think about and consider both of these stocks / crypto traded very much based on hype, very much based on emotion, very much forward outlook and thinking. They were both stocks / crypto that had a very similar motion where they basically just went into some kind of wavy motion, and then suddenly with Bitcoin enter 2017, with Tesla enter 2020, just saw a spike. Now we don't know what Tesla's going to do for the rest of this year, but after that massive spike with Bitcoin, then it just leveled down. People lost interest into it, and I'm not saying it's going to happen with Tesla. Nobody knows for sure, but we could be seeing a very common trend that's been going on. So what exactly is the general sentiment? I think that the general consensus, is that if you're looking to invest in Tesla for the long term, and by long term we're talking about at least 5, if not even over 10 years, then I honestly think any time right now is a great time to buy Tesla if you're in it for the really long-term game. However, if you're in it for more of the mid-term game, let's say 2, 3 to 5 years, I would be hesitant to try to get into Tesla now. But if you're trying to get into it on the short-term game, within the 1-year time frame, then I actually think that it's hard to say. This would be incredibly hard to say, and I think that it would really depend on your risk tolerance. I think that a lot of people are trying to make some kind of move where if you're trying to gamble on this short term, term, like, you know, play with casino money. A lot of people are hoping that if they try to buy Tesla now, when and if the likelihood is very high that they go into the S&P 500, it'll spike up super rapidly. But then the problem is that they're gonna look to have to exit out before a potential, again, nobody knows for sure, a potential crash maybe will happen. But then the problem is it would be incredibly high risk because you don't know how to time it. So you're really just gambling a little bit at that point in time. So I would say excellent for long term, not so much maybe midterm, debatable short term. Me personally, I don't think I'm going to be touching Tesla at this time, but it's actually more because of personal comfort. Is I generally don't like to touch stocks that are generally too volatile, like the very like wavy price action. I prefer to touch stocks that are actually a little bit more on like a much more, how would you say, like gradual growth upwards. Like think like Microsoft, Visa, MasterCard, like those are generally the stocks that I look into. But of course, don't necessarily do this just because I'm doing this, because nobody knows for sure. Warren Buffett doesn't even know for sure. Warren Buffett has been wrong about things before in the past as well. So definitely, you know, do the research to kind of come up with your own conclusion. But I think my video is really just to give my personal insight about what I think, what exactly is going on, and then what I'm personally going to be doing. But the final decision everyone has to make is independently by listening to yourself, your mind, your heart, logically, through yourself independently. Really random, but I just realized that in a lot of my videos, if you see this hat that I'm wearing, this actually comes, funny enough, from a Formula E event, which is kind of crazy. I went to the Formula E competition last year. I got this hat free from that event. Electric cars. I just realized the funny coincidence. I'm repping electric car gear. Tesla, now Formula E. So anyway, hopefully this helped you guys, gave you guys some insight. Smash the like button if you guys haven't done so already. Oh, and consider subscribing, and maybe comment down below what you think is going to happen in Tesla, or maybe a future stock that you are particularly interested in following, and maybe I'll make a video about that. Thank you guys so much for watching. Best of luck. Happy investing. Stay safe, stay well, and hope to see you guys next time. Let's go.